Me, 41 male, and my wife, 29 female, have been together since May 2017. We met online about 6 months ago after I had healed from another traumatic relationship in the past. She was at the time in a relationship with her abusive ex for an unknown period of time where she was unhappy and had been unfaithful. I didn't know this at the time, but would later find out once all the lies and such came out. When we met, it was going to be a summer fling, nothing more, but it morphed into something more. The backstory is that she was in law enforcement, more specifically, a correctional officer. I found her profession interesting because she didn't look the part. I remember asking her how an attractive woman like her would be working in an all male prison, and she said it's a minimum security prison, and her current role doesn't require her to interact with inmates. When I asked her if she had considered doing something else that matches her looks, she said it pays well and it's a challenging position, and she would like to prove that she could do it. I found her interesting, to say the least. Our bedroom life was awesome. She likes to try different things in bed, and we tried every position known to man because she gets easily bored with traditional positions. She enjoys aggressive excess and BDSM. I should have seen this as a red flag, but we weren't in a relationship at the time, and I was loving it. And it's not unusual to find a girl with a kink these days. Moreover, I was enjoying it at the time. I was much older than her, and I could tell she wasn't about commitment or settling down and getting into a relationship. Well, we caught feelings, and there was an undeniable connection like no other, despite my reservation and or the age difference. She moved in with me, and we went off happily into the sunset, or so I thought. We were together from May 2017 until about September 2017 when she left her browser open, and I discovered that she was into group access as well. I brought that up to her, and she said she would never consider doing it, and it was just a fantasy, and she didn't think she would try it. I didn't think anything of it because we all have fantasies, and I didn't see anything wrong with someone you're in a relationship with fantasizing. But I was still concerned because she likes pushing her boundaries. Couple of months later, when we were having excess, she told me that she would like to open our relationship because she wanted to be intimate with other people. I responded that it wasn't what I wanted, and I decided to end the relationship because of her insatiable desire to try new things. Well, we broke up and went our separate ways, but we still remained friends because there was no animosity between us. Not even days after we broke up, she started seeing another guy, so we stopped texting each other. 9 months later, out of the blue, she texted me with pictures of injuries she sustained from abuse by her boyfriend. Turns out that her partner at the time was very abusive, but she stayed with him hoping he would change. It all culminated one night when they had an argument and he physically assaulted her. It was so bad that he almost killed her. The neighbors managed to call the cops and he was arrested. Come to find out, her partner had multiple felonies on his record, and he used to be an inmate in her prison. More on that later. She reached out to me and we started texting. Then I visited her at the hospital multiple times before she was discharged from the hospital. When she got out, we kept in touch. After she fully recovered, we ended up hooking up a few times, but never fully reconciled because I wasn't sure about her attitude about open relationships, and I know that I wasn't open to it. I told her that my opinion about an open relationship hasn't changed. She told me that she had gotten it out of her system and she was ready to settle down with me and that she liked what we used to have. A few months later, she got pregnant and she moved in with me. After she gave birth to my son in December 2019, 4 months later, she returned to work. We took turns taking care of our son. She was working nights while I worked days, so each parent would be present to take care of our son. We also hired a babysitter when none of us are available. We got engaged by August 2019. We got married. Well, here we are, less than 6 months married, and bam, I get the feeling something is off. She starts getting heavily annoyed with me for no reason. She wouldn't show up on time from work and just acting weird. I felt like she wasn't fit to be a mother. I would be at work and the babysitter would call me, telling me that my wife hasn't shown up to take over from babysitter and I will have to leave work early. Since she works in a prison, she cannot take her phone to the institution with her. It's in her truck outside for 8 to 12 hours, so I couldn't reach her. When I confronted her about it, she would apologize to me, giving excuses like she was forced to work extra hours, and her job is not the type where she could just drop everything and go home. We talked about switching jobs for something that could work with her new role as a mom. There weren't any other job position that would pay as much as what she was currently making, so she used that to rationalize staying in her job as a correctional officer. Well, St. Patrick's Day rolls around, and I noticed that she was out with her coworkers. She's really dismissive and pretty much ignoring me. I call her out on it, and she of course say I'm crazy and dramatic. I bluntly ask her if there was someone else. She says no. I ask if she regrets getting married and having kids, and why all of a sudden we don't fit in her life. That is how it felt. She told me that I was overreacting and that having a child and getting married seemed like it all happened at once, and she's trying to balance it, and that I was being selfish and inconsiderate. I was frustrated because I have a gut feeling that something was off, so I accused her of having an affair and hiding it. We have this big blow up fight, and she vehemently denies everything. When she fell asleep, I decided to check her phone. No sign of any affair, but I found communication with her coworkers about some specific inmate they have a crush on. I thought about confronting her about it, but I didn't want to come off as overreacting and invading her privacy because there was no evidence of an affair. Moreover, she would flip over it if she found out that I was checking her text communication with her friends and coworkers. I played down what I saw on the text messages as locker room talk. I imagined a male correctional officer at a female prison would be reacting the same way. I have always known she is edgy and may be trying something new. This may be another kink she's thinking about trying out or already started. So I decided to look into it. I gained access to her computer, looked through her browsing history, and it turns out that she was deleting her browsing history every time she uses the computer. So it was a dead end. Since she has a history of abusive ex-boyfriends, I decided to look into the records of her previous ex-boyfriend for the first time. I did a background on him and found out that he was an inmate at the prison she works out at, which raised a SHT tons of alarm bells. All of a sudden, the innocent locker room talk on her text exchanges with her coworkers wasn't so innocent anymore. I thought maybe she was dating another inmate on the side and claiming that she was working longer hours. So I bought a GPS and installed it in her car. Over the next few months, our relationship seemed to be improving. I wasn't receiving any calls from the babysitter, and my wife was coming home when she was supposed to. Furthermore, the GPS installed to track her movement indicates that the only place she goes to outside of work is to the bar with friends, and everything checked out. I removed the GPS tracker from her car before she finds it. I took my foot off the gas from constantly being on detective mode. I soon stopped suspecting that she was committing an affair and completely trusted her. Fast forward July 2021, our son was 2 years old. Out of the blue, she told me that she was no longer comfortable working as a correctional officer and wanted to find another job. When I pressed her on her reasons, she claimed that her job was becoming stressful. I didn't ask her any more questions because I have always wanted her to quit her job, since I know now that she met her abusive ex there when he was an inmate made me support her idea of switching a job even more. A day after she claimed that she quit her job, I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and found out that she wasn't on the bed. I went to the living room and heard her sobbing. I startled her when I showed up and caught her crying. When I asked her what was going on, she tried to hide her tears I pressed her on why she was crying, and she kept saying nothing. I was concerned. I knew that something was wrong, and she was having a difficult time sharing it. 2 days after she told me that she quit her job, I went to yahoo.com to check my mail, and a local story section caught my eyes. It was reported that there was an incident of an inappropriate relationship between an inmate and a correctional officer. Being that my wife was a correctional officer at that prison and it's a local story, I clicked on the news report. The name of the correctional officer wasn't mentioned, and many of the details were not mentioned either. But the news report about a correctional officer that had an inappropriate relationship with an inmate. They mentioned that the relationship was physical. The story mentions that the evidence was exposed during a random cell search or a random shakedown. That was where the story stopped. Then I went to the website of my local newspaper to see if they had more details about it. That was when I read about how they found an inmate's cell phone. And on the cell phone, there were pictures of a correctional officer doing an act with at least 2 inmates. And they found pictures of nudes from the officer. The female officer was fired from her job and could possibly go to prison. It didn't take much to put 2 and 2 together. I confronted her with this news report, and she broke down crying, telling me that she made a big mistake and didn't know that she was being recorded on an inmate's cell phone when she was having excess with another inmate. I was shocked by what she just admitted to. I didn't have to push for more information because she was voluntarily talking. She said that she has been having an affair with one inmate and he forced her to also sleep with his cellmate. My mind went back to the reason why we broke up in 2017 when she was obsessed with open relationship and group excess and how she's always pushing the boundaries. I am sure she was lying about a few details, but at this point, it doesn't really matter. I was sure she was telling the watered down version of what actually occurred. I just can't believe how someone can throw everything away and risk so much for a short-term pleasure. She's a mother and a wife, and she threw that away for excess with inmates. This is some type of hybristophilia behavior, and she needs a serious mental evaluation. After she confessed to me, I didn't know where to start. I regretted taking her back. It was clear that she had some deep mental issue that have come back to bite me in my behind. All I thought about was the future of our 2-year-old son. I asked her what the next step is, and she told me that she's looking for a lawyer, and there's a chance that she could go to prison. She was crying the whole time she was confessing. It was hard to hear what she was saying. I couldn't imagine this level of betrayal, but divorcing her was the last thing that came to my mind at the time. There wasn't a moment to cry or kick her out of the house. It was quite possible that she would be going to prison. So all I thought about was who was going to raise our son. I can't imagine raising a 2-year-old alone. So I went online to investigate what would happen to her. I found out that she may have to spend time in prison. More information came out on the news that she was not only having excess with multiple inmates, she was also smuggling a cell phone and other contraband items to them as well. And of course, she didn't mention that in her confession to me. I grilled her every day on why she did it. She didn't gain financially from it. My opinion is that she gets a kick out of the control the inmates had over her. What she did was beyond believable. But looking back, it shouldn't have been much of a surprise to me because the signs were there and she hid it in the open. Her kink behavior was a dead giveaway. She even admitted to me during her confession that she knew what she was doing was wrong, but she continued to do it like an addict. There is a reason why all her exes were abusive to her, and I was the only normal person that she had dated. I was like a father figure to her and was always pushing her to do the right thing. Before we got back together, she convinced me that she had been trying to change and she was hoping that I would influence her towards that direction. But after the stress of having a child, she stated that she allowed herself to be used by an inmate. After she mentioned that the affair started after she gave birth to our child, I didn't believe her. I did the needful by doing a paternity test on our son, and I found out that he wasn't mine. I felt used and betrayed. I have given everything to this woman and her son. When I found out that he wasn't mine, I was devastated. I felt responsible for him because I was the only stable, responsible parent in his life. The upcoming months would be a nightmare for me. She was charged with a crime and was arrested. I refused to play any part in helping in her case. My focus was on my son. He's not biologically mine, but I am all he knows. I can't abandon him. I don't have to worry about kicking her out of our apartment because the following months she was sentenced to prison. I will try to leave out some details about the case because I don't want to make it easy to identify me. Luckily, this story didn't make national headlines because there were bigger stories happening at the time that garnered all the attention. But it was a big local news for a few days. It wasn't my intent to be raising a child alone, to be a single father, especially for a child that isn't biologically mine. I would have liked to wash my hands off all this and start afresh, but it's difficult to do now that a child is involved. My wife's parents are separated and she has no contact with them. She had a traumatic childhood and wanted nothing to do with them, so they are not a good fit to raise a child. And even though he isn't mine, I have bonded with him and I intend to raise him as my son. And when he is old enough, I will tell him the truth about his mom if it comes to that. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up so YouTube algorithm will promote my videos. Thank you very much and